So, continuing the Frostgrave theme, I really want to make a giant hill with a playable interior, like space to put ruins and whatnot inside. Main source of inspiration for this was the Train Tutor. He's got this awesome Frostgrave board. I'll try to link to that somewhere. But it looks incredible, and it's got this giant hill on one of the tiles. That's just looks amazing and looks like a super fun piece to have. The only problem is that's a lot of storage space for one use. So more recently I happened across a video by Jeremy from Black Magic Craft where he's got a modular mountain train. So the plan is to take these two ideas, smash them together, and go for modular mountain train that can be used as hills. Normally I would like to use XPS foam for this, but I have a giant piece of normal styrofoam that I really should use, even though I kind of hate this stuff because all the little pieces get everywhere and it's a giant mess. So I think it's time to just use that guy and get it over with. So the plan is, I feel like I need a drawing. Let's say this is the 20-inch tile or 24-inch tile that will be used for the gameplay. Train Tutor's hill kind of goes like this, which I really like because you got this interior area where you can play and put ruins and whatnot all in this space. But I want to make this modular. So the plan is to make straight tiles like this, pieces like Jeremy made in his video. Make two of them, I think probably different size just to give it a little bit of variation. And then make pieces with like a 45-degree angle or something like that. Maybe a little bit of a curve to help that look more natural. That can connect these two pieces, make them into a hill. And then by stacking these with smaller and smaller bits, eventually we can get to a top piece, which I would just make one solid piece that can also be used as a hill on a corner on a normal playing mat or other board. So let's get into cutting the pieces. Okay, so I just cut up these lovely pieces and had my camera, two angled cameras going. I was talking to this one and nothing was recording, so anyway, as I just told you when you were not listening because of my technological difficulties, cut these pieces 15 inches long, these pieces 12 inches long. I was thinking I could just stack them nice and straight, but that would require about 20-inch square piece on top, which I did not account for when I was cutting these. So if I'd been thinking ahead, I could have cut some of these pieces a little bit different and made that work. But in thinking, I can kind of stack these guys in, not quite that far, but just a little bit. That would mean I need a smaller piece on top, less piece over here, which should work out really well. If that doesn't work, if I still don't have a big enough piece for the top, I can use like cardboard or something to cover the entire area and then cobble together some of the pieces of styrofoam that I do have. So let's see how that goes. Wasn't thinking again. I should have made this just a little bit bigger so that it could sit on top and still be flush on the edges. Well, it might actually be worth making a couple that are shorter than these guys to get this up just a little bit higher. I like the size of this hill, but looking underneath, it's quite a bit far back for like playing in there. There's not like a ton of space to move your hand in if there's rubble and whatnot in there, ruins to play like scatter terrain in there. Might be nice to have this up just one more level. So I'm gonna plan as if I'm gonna do that, cut out those corner pieces for the front, and if I still have enough foam left, I'm gonna do that. Just saw the mail truck pull up, and I think this is Frostgrave stuff. So we're gonna take a short break and open this guy up. Oh yeah. Wizard minis. That guy's kind of intense. Perilous Dark and 2nd edition Frostgrave rules. It smells like new book. Really want to just kind of like read these guys, but gotta finish this project. Alright, so I got worked out what pieces should be cut where. Biggest problems I see going forward with this are styrofoam. It has all these little nastiness on the edges which get in the way. Shouldn't be a huge deal to clean up, just gotta do it so that everything fits nice and flush and there's no gaps between the pieces. Second thing, which is a bit more of a problem, is having it all stay so that it doesn't like collapse. I think there's two main things I'm gonna have to do. We have to support the walls, because even without the top piece, they kind of want to cave in because of how I have them stacked inward. And then when you add the top piece, it's even worse. So I gotta fix that somehow. I might put holes in the bottom of things and use a little bit of dowel that can be removable. So if it's in like the hill configuration, I can put some dowels in like the middle pieces or something as supports, and also on the top piece. But then if I want to use just like a little hill, individually use the pieces, I can pull that dowel out and not have a dowel randomly sitting at the bottom of a hill and elevating it when I don't want it to be elevated. That's the plan. Yep, so as I was saying before, add a few dowels that are removable to the bottoms of these things and just some key spots. Like this corner, maybe need one in here on one of these pieces, just to give things extra support. So now that I got a game plan for how this whole deal's gonna work, I wanna mark out where I want the pieces to slope for the hill. I want a little bit of space where minis can stand. Alright, so I'm not sure exactly where I left you guys at, so I'll just kind of recap the last couple days. I was going to cover the foam with a mixture of PVA glue, water, black paint, and a little bit of sand. Unfortunately, that wasn't thick enough to fill in the styrofoamy gaps, so you could easily see like circles and stuff from the styrofoam, which looked really bad. So I switched to using spackling, drywall mud, whatever you want to call it, and I just brushed on a fairly thin layer of this over the styrofoam. I didn't need a thick layer since I already gave different like shapes and whatnot to the styrofoam. I think that worked pretty good. So next step is we gotta seal this all in. So I'm gonna use up the remaining PVA glue paint mixture that I have, and when that's gone, I'll switch over to just some Mod Podge mixed with black paint that I have. Alright, so I got everything coated with Mod Podge. I actually ended up doing 2 coats. There was a number of spots that were uncovered, especially with styrofoam. It's got all these little crevices and whatnot you gotta get into, so that's really hard to do in one coat. So I ended up doing 2 coats. That way also I could get a nice black finish on these sides. When I use these, several of the sides will be sticking off the table most likely, or up to the edge, so there'll be this vertical line. And that way it just doesn't look awful, it just looks kind of bad. It's not a blinding white nastiness though. So multiple coats. I did the bottom 2 just to harden everything up. Don't want weird little styrofoam bits falling off the bottom. This way it's all sealed in. I shouldn't have any more disasters like earlier this week where styrofoam's just everywhere. Okay, next up is dry brushing. So the plan is to have one side kind of like a cave, one side kind of like a hill. And this is frost grave, so I'm going for snowy hill. So I'm thinking I'm going to put some blue in there and then work up to a white. Maybe add some snow flocking. For the cave side, I'm thinking like tans with some green and maybe a little bit of orange mixed in. I know that's not really what caves have, but I'm thinking orange because of like torchlight flickering on the walls, and green so that if I want to, depending on how they look, I might skip the green, but it could be a non-icy hill. You could flip them around. So we'll see how that goes. Alright, so I just dropped my phone, filming from up there. I don't know if you can see it, probably not, onto these guys, and they held up pretty well. Wasn't intentional, but I think this guy got a bounce onto it. It's got a bit of a tear up, but an indent, not too bad. This guy got the worst of it. Looks like he got a piece knocked off and a piece kind of crumpled in. It's pretty good though. I'm a little bit surprised, or impressed I guess, but also they feel sturdy enough to not completely smush when something falls on them. So I'm going to touch those up and then we'll get into dry brushing. Alright, so the painting's done. I ended up going with brown, then orange, then tan on the cave side. I didn't end up painting this side. I think this would make a decent hill front if I really wanted to. But I don't think I would want to use it as that. I think it'd be much better just as a cave. And then if I really want a different hill or a non-snowy hill, I can make something for that. Else, if I change my mind later, it's easy enough just to paint this up real quick and maybe stick some green on the back half that wouldn't be seen in cave mode to make it look more like a hill. The other side, I think this looks really good. I went with like a tealish color, deep blue sea, and then a light turquoise. And I did a deep blue sea from the bottom up, sort of, kind of like light reflecting off the snow or ice or something like that. And then the light turquoise top down. I think it looks really good. I did go over it with a gray, everything with a gray. Not really with a particular direction, which toned it way back. And I think that really, really helped. And then a light dry brushing of white top down to kind of give like snow piled in different little areas. I decided not to go with flocking because there's so many pieces. It just seemed like a lot more time consuming than I wanted to go for. I am really running a little bit short on time, so I decide not to do that. I do think it would give it a nice extra layer, but I'm not convinced that the effort would be, it'd be a great return on investment of my time, basically. And I don't have a ton of it, I only have a small container. So I wouldn't want to run out halfway through and have like 2 different looks. That might look a little funky. So I'm gonna let these finish drying, and then I will assemble it. I did a little demo test run earlier, and last night it seemed like it stayed up on its own. Today it did not seem like it wanted to do that, so it might have been balanced against the bookcase or something like that. But that will be a project for another day, is figuring out the support system. I'm thinking about doing some stalactites or stalagmites or columns to help support it. It's actually staying right now on its own, I think. Yeah. No support right now, so it's semi-stable. It fits just right. If the pieces all kind of pinch against each other perfectly. Might be caving in a little bit, but anyway. Here it is. It's the ice mountain / cavern. Things I would change: don't use styrofoam. That was a giant mess when it all gets everywhere and it's super staticky and it doesn't come off of things. And yeah, at least have a vacuum on hand. Another thing, I would like to make a second piece of this angle, or maybe just like cut into it. I'd like to have a little doorway going into this giant cavern back here. But honestly, as a whole, I'm really happy with it. I think it would be potentially helpful to have these lower pieces extend deeper so that it is more structurally sound on its own without needing additional support. Maybe then I just need one pillar back behind this corner to support things and it'd be good. That is one advantage of having it made out of all glued together, one solid piece, but this is a giant hill, as you can see. So that's not practical to store for most people, including me. Alright, here's the cave half of it. I was wrong earlier. There is one support that's needed down on these bottom 2 second layer. Needs to support it so that it doesn't all collapse in. That's one thing where it'd be really nice if these were just like 3 inches longer. That'd be pretty good. Another thing that I would change is to take a little bit more time, make sure the cuts are nice and square. That's pretty difficult with a knife, but with like a foam cutter that would be much easier. There also are a few dimensions that just don't quite line up perfectly, which, since this is a modular system, I'm not super upset with. The idea is not that this is its sole function, so there are other uses that won't have these same defects. That change that I might want to make could be considered a defect in that scenario, if that makes sense. I also might consider putting a wash on these cavern walls. Not 100% sure on that one though. So I think it's really a great project. I can use this now as different setups. I can make a valley, or that's all I can think of. I'm sure I can do a lot more with it though. I can have just like one giant long hill instead of having it curve. If I just use these 4 pieces on either side, put them together. I hope you like this video, and if you do, please hit the thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching. With that, I'll see you in the future.